Well, that was it. The Book of Boba Fett has officially closed for now. May we get a season 2? There was no end credit scene announcing a season 2. We haven't heard anything about that. Will he appear in The Mandalorian season 3, which hopefully we get at the end of this year, if not early next year? Here it is. It's over. It's time to talk full spoilers on the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 7, the series finale. Let me know down below, guys, what your guys' thoughts were on this episode, because that's going to be the most interesting thing, as well as hit that like and subscribe button, because I will be doing a Book of Boba Fett episode ranking either today, later in the day, or Thursday morning. So look out to that, because I'm really excited to be giving you guys that ranking. And, of course, I want to see your guys' episode ranking as well, because this has been a series that I've had a wide variety of thoughts of, because I've always loved the Boba Fett character itself, but it's a character that this is the first time we've actually gotten a lot more development to him, and I don't know if the show completely filtered out in the end. I do feel like it was a little bit uneven, and we're going to discuss that a lot more into either today's video or tomorrow's, but just talking about Episode 7 overall, lots of stuff happened, and I don't know where to start, because Cad Bane, one of my favorite bounty hunters of all time, was introduced last week's episode. I knew him and Boba Fett were probably going to have the standoff. The big episode that, of course, an unfinished Clone Wars episode actually showed Cad Bane die in there. Of course, that was never canon because they never released it. Well, Cad Bane finally died in here. And I know I'm skipping way ahead. We'll kind of get to that, but I got a lot of thoughts on that, because I'm very disappointed they killed Cad Bane already. But at the same time, he went out in a manner that made sense. He was old, and Boba Fett and him have had this kind of, how do you say, not banter with one another, but this issue with one another. Cad Bane was a big reason who trained him. And, of course, then they had kind of this falling out in Clone Wars time. But overall, that's going back way too far. Talking about this episode in general, it picks up exactly where we left off last time. Cobb Vanth is gunned down. Mando does not know. Freetown and all that. Cad Bane arrives to tell him, hey, they are not coming. You have no purpose. They're in the sanctuary after the bombing had happened. And it just comes down to, what is our game plan? And very much so, this episode was a heavy all-out war, in a sense kind of going back to old school westerns when there is a giant town shootout. It was even very much panned out in the way that those stylized fights would happen. Shot here, cut to this person falling over. Very much in an homage to, say, Tombstone and other older Clint Eastwood or any other sort of westerns that you would see. That is how much this episode very much felt, and a lot of it was that war. And for me, I kind of just want to jump through all the big story aspects before I kind of lay down my thoughts on the overall action. Of course, it was great seeing Boba Fett and Cad Bane kind of have that first standoff. Of course, Cad Bane reveals that, hey, the Pikes were actually the ones that took down the Tusken Raiders, which is something that I actually assumed, and we knew that would probably piss him off. Cad Bane wanted to fight him. In that moment, though, there was not that much dialogue going back to their history, and I was getting worried that they were going to retcon that or decanonize that. Then Cad Bane finally said a line at the very end. I do think this kind of goes back to the problem that Cad Bane probably should have been introduced a little bit earlier in the show, so maybe we would have a little bit more banter, because there was a lot between them. And for people who never watched Clone Wars, you have no idea about any of that backstory. So again, that is an issue with the show that I do feel like needed to be established a little bit earlier. But again, that showdown, that fight between, not even the fight, but just that conversation between them was very important. And then setting up and executing their plan. At the same time of year, of course, an X-Wing fighter comes in, R2-D2 for a second. I'm like, oh my god, are we gonna get Luke? No, it's Grogu. He sent Grogu back. Grogu has the little chain mail thing on, which is cool. And our favorite droid Depot finally picks him up and, you know, pretty much his babysitter. They set off to go find out where Mando is, which we see later in the episode. She finally finds him at the worst timing possible. Adding in there as well, of course, they are trying to figure out what is the best purpose for this. They have everyone scavenged throughout the town. Chrysanthemum, the Vespa gang guys, and of course the Gamorrean guards. Now, we all knew that was going to go badly wrong. And pretty much in the end of the day, they're like, hey, we're getting a bad feeling about this. And what happens? Well, they get screwed because everyone they had made a deal with decides to fuck over Boba, and what happens? They all get gunned down. The Gamorrean guards get killed, which that sucked, like seeing them fall to their death. That was brutal. But then adding in the Vespa gang just sitting there like, boom, boom, trying to survive. And of course, Chrysanthemum is getting thrashed over again and again. I was getting worried for my boy Chrysanthemum. I did not want him to die. getting intense in all that manner, but moving along, of course, it comes down to Fennec's like, I got a plan, protect me. She rushes out, she flies out. What is she to do? And of course, it leaves Mando, Boba Fett, and the mayor's assistant, which is pretty annoying, but it really comes down to then they get surrounded by Pikes, and it's like, what are we to do? And I found this to be very interesting because then, of course, he's already pissed off, but he writes that note. The assistant goes out there, and pretty much she's like, oh yeah, I don't want to read this, because Boba's not. Of course, they come out with the jetpacks, which has been something I've been waiting to see, some jetpack Mandalorian action between Boba and Mando, firing on all cylinders, and again, having a blast. Then they're, of course, getting gunned down. Freetown comes in, the recruitments from them, gunning down all of them now, and it just because, again, a full-on fight. And of course, we see the Gamorrean guards die. Fennec ends up saving the Vespa gang. Chrysanthemum makes his way back. They're able to heal him. And it just becomes out they are winning. But not for long, because we get these freaking awesome droids, which are like straight out of the prequel era. And very much remind me of the heavy battle duty droids. I can't remember the names off the top of the head. The ones that rolled in the prequels that have the overshields. And that became a very all-out fight. How are they going to destroy this? The Darksaber doesn't get through the blasters. It's a retreat for the runs. And it really much comes down to Mando and Boba having to figure a way how to stop them. In between there, of course, Boba's like, I'm going to go get backup. For a second, I thought, who the fuck is he going to get? I completely forgot he had the Rancor. Of course, he flies out, gets the Rancor. For a second, I was thinking, like, oh, is he going to get Han Solo, Bosk, or IGI? I don't know what they'll be able to do. Or maybe even a ship, for crying out loud, could have done something. I'm surprised he didn't bring his ship into here. The fire spray, that it is now called. But I was surprised in that. But no, he brings back the Rancor. But before that, Mando's fighting it off. His favorite babysitter droid helper finds him, she gets in the back of it, and he sees his friends there, and he gets so excited. The reunion had me tear up. I love their relationship and the way that they have built it up. It is so, so perfect. Every little moment in there just hypes me up, makes me smile, and I love it, love it, love it. And, you know, in that moment when the Rancor comes in, it's an all-out thing. It's a teamwork thing to destroy this. And Boba Fett riding a Rancor was awesome. And seeing some actual Rancor destruction was great. Brought back some, like, vibes of King Kong for me, or even the Incredible Hulk. And I love seeing the Rancor just rip this thing apart while Mando's trying to destroy it with the Darksaber too. Very satisfying. And then, of course, you know, the rest of the gang is being destroyed by this other droid, but they're all having these good plans, and it's all good in its nature. And Fennec is nowhere to be seen because she's going to hunt down the rest of the Pikes, which we see at the end of this episode. But moving along, of course, then the Rancor goes over there to destroy the last droid. We get some awesome action scenes with that. And then, of course, well, Cad Bane shows up. And in this moment, Cad Bane destroys, gets Boba Fett off the Rancor, and then we finally get that great exchange about a little bit more about their past. How they've had this, you know, Cad Bane's just kind of roasting Boba Fett for who he is, and I do like some of the funny things he mentions. Like, one of the things is making fun of the back to tank, which is something that we've all made fun of, especially in the first 4 episodes, as it was just flashbacks after flashbacks after flashbacks. And for me in that moment, I was building up, and then they were going to just stand off, and I'm like, okay, you can't kill Cad Bane right here. Because for me, Cad Bane is the more experienced fighter. He's the older fighter over Boba Fett, and he has this experience. If we do but this is lining up with the unfinished Clone Wars episode. If he shoots, they're both going to fall, but Boba Fett's going to be able to get up. And of course, Cad Bane wins in that duel. And he gets up close, and he starts kind of wailing on him a bit, pulling the gun in his face, smacking the mask off, and then, of course, what does Boba Fett do? He takes the Tusken's little freaking awesome staff. I need one of those damn things. Sweeps under him, beats the shit out of Cad Bane, stabs him, and kills Cad Bane officially off in the Star Wars canon. Which, again, as a giant Cad Bane fan, it really upsets me because I feel like this character needed a little bit more development in this show to kind of further out that entire revenge plot. But in general, I understand why he did die off in that moment. And that was it. That's where it went. And I was like, cool. Well, Cad Bane's dead now. Boba Fett did. And it was satisfying, like, if you are a Clone Wars fan, if I'm being honest, and if you've never even known who Cad Bane is, you're probably like, oh, cool, Boba Fett won. And in the end of the day, they pretty much did win. The Pikes, everyone is retreating at this point. The last little bit that we get is the Rancor is destroying the city. Mando tries to ride him and tame him, doesn't work. Grogu comes in, and what does he do? He uses the Force, which was cool because Grogu started to use the Force on the droid at one point, but he uses what a Jedi would do, tames the beast, and then cuddles up right next to him, which was like one of the cutest things that I've probably ever seen. And from then on, we see Fennec take out everyone else, all the rest of the Pikes, the main Pike leader, the mayor, which was satisfying. I knew it was Fennec that was doing that. I wish it was Boba that would have also showed up too, but at the end of the day, it shows them walking through town. Town is repaired. But Boba Fett mentioned something that he goes, I don't know if this is for us. And I don't like that line because we just spent an entire season of doing this for you. So what is your next plan? And I kind of wish they would have given us maybe an inkling to what that means. Maybe you guys have a theory on that. Maybe I took it wrong that maybe he is going to stay in here. He's just not really going to be in charge and everyone else is kind of do what they're doing. He's just going to kind of sit up in the throne. I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on there. I'm hoping it's just like, I just want to relax. We've taken over the city. If it comes down to need, I will come down to play. But he throws the thing to the chrysanthemum, and from there, that is the end of it. What do we see, though? We get the Mando theme. We see Mandalorian and, of course, Grogu in the awesome Naboo starfighter ship. They're flying, and Grogu's kind of annoying him. He wants him to hit the freaking hyperjet. Hits it. Boom! Goes out, and Grogu's face is awesome. Cuts the credits, and we know the next time that we're going to see them is Season 3 of The Mandalorian, which, again, I'm hoping is this year because I need my next fix of The Mandalorian. But that's where this episode ends. But it doesn't, though, because we actually did get an end credit scene showing that Cobb Vanth was in the back of the tank being healed up and most likely getting some droid parts into him since that same guy who healed Fennec is also healing him there. Cool. I was kind of hoping that they would have left that death there, even though I love Cobb Vanth and I love Timothy Olyphant and that character. For me, you gunned him down. You got to keep up those stakes, but it's whatever. It's a little bit of a thing. I'm really curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this episode, though, because overall, while it was satisfying, while it was a fun episode, I do feel like certain things were uneven because of the entire season, and I had fun overall. But that's really it where I'm at with this entire season. I feel a little bit conflicted by the end of this episode, and I feel like I really need to rewatch it again before I do my ranking, which I plan on doing. So guys, leave down below your guys' thoughts, your comments, hit that like and subscribe button, and I can't wait for you guys to tune in for that, of course. And in general, we got Obi-Wan coming up soon, so again, if you want some more coverage on that, that will be there. And of course, Moon Knight, I will definitely be covering. But of course, guys, until next time, this is the way. May the Force be with you all, and stay classy.